This is your Thursday Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Plenty to get to today. I'll be joined by Spencer Hall, college football podcaster, college football writer. Lots of good stuff in that coming up in just a minute or two here. Also, I'll get into a Kirk Cousins story that I thought was interesting in our newspaper and on the StarTribune.com today. But first, what did I miss? You know, I thought I wouldn't be talking much Twins on, the back half of this season when they've been playing, when they played so poorly the first half of the year, but they've made me pay attention more than I thought I would need to. And, again, the games aren't all that meaningful right now, but when Jorge Polanco, when one player gets a walk-off opportunity, ends a game 3 of the last 4 nights, when he walks off an opponent 3 times in 4 nights, we got to pay attention. He did it again on Wednesday afternoon with a single in extra innings to defeat Cleveland. Twins win another series, and Jorge Polanco delivers again. I've talked about Jorge on the show a couple different times, but, just if you're looking for a positive from this season, it is the rebound of health and production of Jorge Polanco. Had a great 2019 season. He didn't hit 30 home runs like a lot of Bomba Squad guys did, but 22 homers, 295 batting average, 841 OPS. Then last year, bothered by injuries, wasn't nearly as productive, only hit 4 home runs in the short season. This year, though, looks like he's back to health, playing primarily second base. And we'll see if that's his position going forward. Phil Miller and I talked about that a little bit on Wednesday's show. Twins don't really have a shortstop of the immediate 2022 future. Is Jorge Polanco staying at second base? Will they move him back to shortstop? Will they find kind of a bridge guy until Royce Lewis or one of these other guys is available? Hard to say, but wherever he is playing, he's going to give you value because his hitting for a middle infielder is off the charts right now. OPS over 800, and all of those walk-off hits, doing it again on Wednesday. So Twins win their 4th series in a row. Again, big picture doesn't matter all that much, but Jorge Polanco being back where they want him to be, him being on a team-friendly contract, euphemism for he's maybe underpaid right now because they bought out some of those years where he could have been making a little bit more. Under contract through 2023 at least, and then option on 2024, 25. So he could be here a long time, depending on how this production goes. And right now, if I'm the Twins, I want Jorge Polanco here for a very long time.
I'm Chris Hine, Timberwolves beat writer at the Star Tribune and the first 5-time guest in daily delivery history. Thank you for listening to this podcast. This work is made possible by our Star Tribune subscribers. For unlimited access to the articles mentioned in this podcast, our coverage of Minnesota sports from pros to preps, and even all of Rand's future blog posts about how the Timberwolves should trade for players they will never get, go to startribune.com/subscribe.
Really happy to have Spencer Hall on the podcast today. Spencer has done a lot of different things, and a lot of them in the college football realm over the years. That's how I got to know his work primarily. Banner Society, Every Day Should Be Saturday, now Channel 6. Can you explain that, Spencer, and how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And thanks for the plug. Plugs are great. Channel 6 is our newsletter. Our being myself and my partner, Holly Anderson. We provide 2 things a week. 2 things a week. The humble promise that we will send exactly 2 things, no fewer, possibly more, to your inbox each week. What are they going to be about? Mostly games and sports, sometimes just the things we want to talk about. For instance, everybody today is going to get an extensive newsletter and or post. It's also a subscription site, so if that's your preferred method of reading, it's usually mine, to be honest, you can do that as well. But you're going to get a breakdown of that Chargers-Rams fight in the stands from the preseason game, because I thought it was worth it, because there's a lady there who is the most chaotic individual I have ever seen in my life. So you will get that. It is you got to pay for most of it. There's a free version. You usually get that occasional newsletter on Fridays if you subscribe to the free one. But subscribe for the good stuff, because I like paying people for stuff. You should like paying people for stuff. It's like $1 and change a thing. $1 and change a thing for all this quality internet content. But if that's not your thing, you can also follow me at EDSBS, or hey, you can watch me on Thinking Out Loud on the SEC Network, which is going to be every Monday at 7 p.m. coming up during the college football season.
That's a lot. Does this count as one of the two things, this podcast?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
This would be your thing.
This is a one-off.
Not my thing. So what I'm telling you that is gravy. This extra. So enjoy.
I want to start. Well, first off, Spencer, I feel like you're part of my tour of old new media, because I had J.E. Skeets on a couple weeks ago. I'm going to have Drew McGarry on next week. Just people I really like, people I've enjoyed meeting and reading and listening to over the years. I actually met you in real life. This was like a decade ago at the Blogs with Balls conference in Chicago, and enjoyed that as well. But one thing you wrote, and I want to get into a topic because I went back and reread something you wrote. This was Banner Society. This was like 6 years ago, about paying college athletes. And I credit this piece with turning my opinion to a large degree on this subject, like a complete 180. Like, I used to be one of those people that was like, oh, you get free education. You get this, you get that. Why should you pay the college athletes? And then you laid it out so perfectly in the piece just titled Broke, with a lot of your own personal experience in there as well, that it changed my mind to a large degree. Now, fast forward 6 years, name, image, likeness, very fresh in this college sports landscape. What is your take on this way of kind of paying but not really paying, allowing them to be paid, I guess, college athletes?
That the most vicious thing ever said about being American was said by a British person, Winston Churchill, saying that Americans would eventually do the right thing, but only after exhausting every other option first. That we keep getting it wrong because doing the right thing or doing the hard thing is simply too much, because we're fundamentally either lazy or evil. I would prefer to think lazy, but the second
pick, you get to the same point either way.
You get to, like, it's your intent is irrelevant if the effect is bad, right? And name, image, and likeness is great, but that's a right. That's something that people had rights to anyway. Getting a fair market value for your labor is right. So that's the next right. And people will say, well, isn't this enough? Or aren't you actually paying them? No, we're not. This is a gap in the market. And it's not even the gap that covers the primary value of their labor. This will all sound really tiresome to people who just want to watch the games, but I don't really care anymore. That's the thing you have to do in order to affect any kind of change, is to be a royal pain in the ass, especially if you have the law on your side. And the Supreme Court's already opened the door for this.
Yes.
You know, the most conservative court in my lifetime essentially invited someone to file the case that would end all of this, saying that the labor market that the NCAA currently uses would not stand in any court of law, that it made no sense, and it was a cheap lie and cover for separating people from their wages. So that's the most conservative court in our generation. Yes. And they wrote that explicitly, saying that we would not use this as precedent, but we invite someone to just walk in and take it, to just walk right in and make us do the right thing, because it's a court. They're not going to write legislation, but if they see this coming down the line in the form of a decision, it sounds like they're going to go ahead and do it. So I'm happy for name, image, and likeness. It's very fun. Like, it's very fun watching athletes get endorsements. Watching JT Daniels, this is maybe right lost in your listeners, but I'll get you up to speed. Watching JT Daniels become the Georgian I think he was meant to be by getting a Zaxby's endorsement. If you're not familiar, Zaxby's is a fried chicken chain here in Georgia and in a couple of other states in the region. They are what I would call, the primary flavor is salt. They're big on, in terms of their spice palette. They got great salads. Like, I'm actually going to they're very, very underrated in terms of actually getting you fresh salad with like good tomatoes and stuff, if that's your thing. But he signed a he signed an endorsement deal with them. And I thought, man, if you only celebrated TDs with a golf swing, you would be the most Georgia player imaginable. He's got the hair, he's got his Zaxby's endorsement, he's got it all. This is all very long answer, but it's my way of saying, and NIL's fun and it's been really enjoyable. It's not even half the paddle.
Yeah, I like that's just exactly where I am on that without the Zaxby's endorsement. It's like if it was an internet meme, it would be like, tell me you want to pay the players without paying the players. Like you're not giving them any of your money, you're giving them somebody else's money.
If I have an endorsement deal for an entire roster and they all get money off of this large pool of money that I am awarding everybody, that's real close to a salary. That's like so close to a salary. No, it's an endorsement deal. Why have I got to do the right thing and call it something else? No, like we should get everybody on the payroll, even if that. And to the answer of well, how do you do this while being fair? How do you do this while being within Title IX? My answer is every time the right thing comes up, somebody has got at least 11 different ways of pointing to a bureaucracy and saying it can't be done, which is a lie. It can be done, right? Work it out, figure it out, right? There is
But first, exhaust all possible other terrible options.
Exhaust every single option. Hey, what does this mean for non-revenue sports? I don't really care. You're the ones who started a business. That's facts,
right?
You're the ones who turned an amateur sport into a business with the help of an adoring public who really likes a lot of these sports. And if an adoring public is there for other non-revenue sports, and I don't want to single out any of them because I think they all have their own audience and they should all happen. But those sports have happened at universities for a really long time without a whole lot of support. And I think that that's irrelevant to the argument. The argument here is trying to do right by the individuals who give labor for the university under the auspices of a business that has sheltered as a nonprofit. Most of these university athletic associations are nonprofit. That's like if you go and look at their tax.
Someone's making some money though, Spencer. Someone's making some money.
Yeah, you don't have to say someone. It's coaches. It's coaches and administrators.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And I don't really like. A lot of times people go, "Oh man, administrators are making so much money." That is true, and there are a lot of them, and they get to hide behind assistant and executive assistant to titles on down the line. Go back to coaches. Like who's the biggest pigs at the trough here in terms of siphoning money away from athletes are people who have managed to convince people that the expertise in getting those athletes to the school in the first place for pennies means that they should get dollars. Like that's really what it amounts to, and like I don't think the spotlight should be on them at all times, like Dabo Swinney can say whatever he wants. That man's salary comes directly out of his players' pockets.
Yeah, it does. And I love that point. I want to get to a few other things with you. One of them being, some of these being on the field stuff. I'm excited for the season. I had a hard time getting into last year, and I don't even know if last year really counted. It was just everything was weird about last year. I'm excited about this year. Just, feeling more like it's hopefully closer to normal, whatever that is. I'm particularly interested in the potential expansion of the college football playoff, because forever it was 2 teams, or it was, just random. Let's vote for a champion. We've been to go back to the Churchill quote, we've been constantly inching maybe towards something more fair and equitable and something that makes more sense. The 12-team playoff on the table now feels like that would open up college football in a way that it hasn't been open ever, maybe really, or for a long time. Because right now, you go into a season, a handful of teams have a realistic chance of playing for the playoff. I went back and looked. Since they expanded to 4 teams, in the 7 years since they've expanded to 4 teams, there have been a total of 11 different schools that have been in the 4-team playoff. That's just 11 different schools, and most of Auburn, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, they're there all the time. And so as we think about a 12-team playoff I think about a team like the Gophers. I think about other marginal teams who have no chance at the beginning of the year to think about playing, at least competing in a 12, in a 14 playoff. 12 teams is a total game changer to me. What's your take on that idea and what it would do to kind of programs on the fringes of being good?
I think it allows for greater visibility for schools that already have a lot of visibility. Like I think when you go, okay, well, who's going to be outside of that top 4 spots, 5 through 12? They're already pretty big. Like that's, when you go, okay, well, who are the lesser thans? Who are the downtrodden we're letting into this playoff? It's an illusion of equality because spots 5 through 12 are going to be, if I was just listening this year, who are we going to let this in? Well, let's go ahead and go over this. Georgia, Florida. This sounded familiar to you? We're going to go to Penn State in there. Probably going to get some, let's see, are we going to get a Cincinnati in there? Sure. Let's just put poor pitiable Cincinnati in there just as our token. Maybe another token. The percentage of teams that are going to be cycling through in terms of new or interesting blood out of, the 130 plus that we have, it's going to be pretty minimal. You might get the 1 or 2, and that's a might, because what if I have Wisconsin? Like my favorite team that's always sort of either at the edge of like the 4-5
Right.
or they're right at the edge of the 13-12. What if I have Wisconsin or Auburn? Wisconsin or Auburn, the Wisconsin of the SEC. What if I have one of those powers fighting for a spot over somebody like a Buffalo, a Boise State, a Fresno State? If we have a I'm trying to think of somebody else who might, Toledo. Like if you have somebody, some outside shot from the mat, or UCF, perennial
There you go.
internet cranks, UCF, right? I did a Twitter thread yesterday or 2 days ago that had, please share a video or a GIF that sums up what your team's college football season will look like.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And the funniest answer I got, I think about 135 people found it was funny, but it was so on target and niche that I had to love it. It was UCF, like team stated, this is UCF season. And it was the clip of Triple H on Raw going, you know what I'm going to do when I'm unhappy? I'm going to tweet about it. I'm going to go to social media and I will keep tweeting about it. Oh, you're not ready for this. And that's very much the UCF fan.
They were Twitter national champs a few years ago, weren't they?
They're Twitter national champs every year, man.
Yeah.
Every year. I love UCF fans because all of them think that they are the first people to ever like football. That's all of them. They're the ones who did not read the instruction manual on how to college football. So every time they come up on a problem, it is the first time anyone has ever come up on this problem. For instance, hey, did you guys know you can get left out of the playoff? Yeah. As a mid-major, that could totally happen. Someone will go, hey, they said something bad about us. We're mad about it. Oh, really? Really? You knew to this? Yeah. Did you know that they can take a recruit after they say you're going to your school? Heaven forfend. That has never happened in this sport.
So, well, as we think about obviously this market is Gopher football, and it's not been great. 2 years ago was really good, 11-2. I mean, that for here that passes as exceptional, but it was a very good year. They one more win, they could have been in a pretty big conversation. If 12 teams isn't good enough for, how do you become a team then that becomes at least on the fringes of that? What is this? How do you even begin to program build if you're in Minnesota and become part of that conversation?
I think for Minnesota, the advantage they have at the start is being in the Big Ten. Now, with conferences engaging in genuine super conference behavior, you're going to see more leverage applied on behalf of teams who might be on the edge and who might be in major conferences. That's advantage one. So if Minnesota is 10-2, right? If they are 11-1, if they are on the outside, then I think they stand a real chance of trumping a team coming from a smaller conference of even a Big 12 team coming in. For instance, if you take a really good Iowa State team at 10-2 coming out of the Big 12, the zombie Big 12, as it were, because the Big 12 already numerically inaccurate by several standard deviations of inaccurate, is only going to get worse when Texas and Oklahoma leave for the SEC in 2025. If they are up against a 10-2 Minnesota team, for instance, for that 12 slot, then it's going to Minnesota, because there is nothing in a committee's eyes that will give Tiny Ames, Iowa leverage over a team that plays in the heart of Minneapolis. I know we normally don't cite Minneapolis as a major TV market. However, compared to Ames, it is. And that is, and compared to the conference affiliations and the way that powers work, or the way the power works in college athletics, Minnesota is going to pull a much heavier tractor than Iowa State. And that metaphor is doubly damaging for Iowa State, I imagine, that they would lose in a tractor affiliated metaphor.
I'm sure there'd be people that were wanting to know what the brand of tractor is, but that doesn't really matter to me. So I had a bit of whimsy for you in the rundown of, I don't know what you think of PJ Fleck, the Gopher coach. I don't know how much you know about him, really care that much about Minnesota or the Big Ten, but I want you to cast a movie, maybe a Marvel movie, something like that. It's a superhero movie, but I want you to cast Big Ten coaches in it, and you have kind of casting autonomy, except that I need you to have PJ Fleck in the movie, and I need you to give him a superpower. Go.
Let's see. So he is boundlessly energetic.
Yes. And
Right.
Relentlessly optimistic too.
Relentlessly optimistic. Perhaps to the point of irritation.
To some,
of his teammates, right?
Of his charges, yes.
His charges, his coworkers. That's interesting because Marvel's been on like a 35 to 40 year run of making people less optimistic or interesting. It is very hard for me to not assume that he is close to a Captain America type, but Captain America in real life. I'm not talking about respectful, I take notes and I learn about things, Captain America. I'm talking about what Captain America would actually be like, which is so irritatingly positive as to grate on everyone around him. So yeah, I'd go ahead. I'd cast him as Captain America.
What if Captain America worked in an office or something like that? Would he be your favorite coworker or not?
Absolutely not. No, like he is. I mean, maybe long term, he might win you over by eventually being the brightest star in the office and being like, okay, this dude's completely sincere. But like, that's not human. I think that's probably the closest you get to it, is like if Captain America were the manager at a very successful regional chain of car washes. Like that sort of feels like what PJ Fleck would be, right?
Probably good that we're not really making Marvel movies. Oh, I would watch them. I would watch Captain America manages a chain of regionally successful car washes. I'd watch that movie. I want to know the character development would be off the charts.
You know, I think the guy who's probably already got like, and if you want to cast Jim Harbaugh as Red Skull, that's fine.
That's your business. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Jim Harbaugh's already kind of got like, you know, good Red Skull vibes anyway to me, right? Like, we will rise. Hydra never rises. Like they never, they're like the Michigan comeback. They're never quite getting off the ground.
Yeah. They were not in my 11 that have played in the playoff. Michigan fans might not know that, but they have not played in the playoff.
Hey, let's look at that, by the way, that I think at this point, if we're talking about a marginal team that might get in on the edge of the playoff, Minnesota seems far more plausible to me than Michigan. And that's because, like, more than anything else, if you look at what PJ Fleck does, is they've just been consistent. They've just been consistent across the board. You know, they don't like they play very buttoned up football. They don't make many mistakes. They take their talent and they put it in a position where everybody seems to know their job and gets very simple, clear assignments. Like, this sounds like obvious stuff, but go watch other football teams. They don't do it.
Yeah. And that's how you win. That's how you win over the long term. Spencer Hall, really enjoying this conversation. Last thing for you, then I'll let you get back to your two things and other projects for the week. Big picture college football landscape. We haven't really talked about, you know, just who's going to be good. What's your season outlook? As if you're just giving someone the speech of this is what you need to pay attention to in college football this year, what is it to you?
I would pay attention to a couple of things, and I'm just picking for entertainment value because I know I like people to I like people to watch stuff that's cool. I don't necessarily I'm not loyal to like playoff storylines, and I'm not really loyal to like enormous narratives. I kind of uh have the novelty of watching players, and the dude that I really love is Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. Ole Miss, by the way, last year had the most manic depressive big swing personality because they allowed over 500 yards of offense all the time on defense. They had the best punter in the nation by distance, which we discussed on the Shutdown Fullcast, our weekly podcast. We discussed that this week, and they averaged like 39 points on the road a game.
Yeah.
They were incredible on offense, and they had to be because they were allowing like 45 points. So I think that like Matt Corral is somebody who is going to be a blast to watch, not just because he's great and because he's a little reckless, but because he's being coached by Lane Kiffin, who I know will make him better. Like, say,
right. Yeah.
No, say what you will. Say what you will about that dude. Okay. But there are two things that are unshakably good about that man. One, he got Ole Miss vaccinated.
Yeah.
Which is astonishing, and also, and shouldn't be, but that's where we're at. It's a sad accomplishment where we go, hey, they're all vaccinated. Amazing work, Lane Kiffin.
Speaking of doing the right thing the hard way. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, great job, Lane. And additionally, Lane Kiffin is an amazing coach of quarterbacks. He got Jonathan Crompton at Tennessee to have a fruitful and productive season, something that I think a lot of people thought was completely impossible, and has made every single quarterback at Alabama better. And he's going to make Matt Corral, who's already an outstanding quarterback, even better this year. So that's a dude that I am extremely excited to watch. As you guy Mafe. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Boy Mafe?
Yeah, Boy Mafe at Minnesota, who is a monster.
Yes.
An absolute beast. He's going to be a delight to watch. And then in terms of other people, I like Keishawn Butte at LSU. Like, he's going to be incredible. Like, he's going to fill a gap for them because they need a wide receiver who's going to stand up. And in case you don't know, all LSU does is recruit really talented running backs at wide receiver. It's all they've ever done. It's what makes Odell Beckham like the freak of all freaks for LSU, because he's actually a pure wide receiver. Everybody else just seems like a truck that happens to run a 4.4. I do not know where they find them. I do not know how they keep getting produced, but they are out there, and he's the latest.
Got a pretty good one here right now with Justin Jefferson too, the Vikings.
God, dude. I think he got overshadowed in that he got overshadowed a lot in that Joe Burrow attack simply because it was too productive. He was just one of 3 or 4 guys who could take the top off a defense, but he might end up being more polished and physically dominant at the next level than Jamar Chase. And that's after like granting that I think Jamar Chase is going to be really successful.
Yeah. Jefferson's, I mean, at 1,400 yards as a rookie. Like, nobody does that.
Yeah, Doug Farrar was breaking him down on Twitter and just showing like, yeah, you don't even need to get him open. He's just
throw it over there.
He's just running pretty simple routes and running the hell out of them and making professionals look like amateurs.
Yeah. I'm excited for the season. I'm fired up for a lot of things. I appreciate your time today, Spencer. Good luck with all the projects. Go follow him on Twitter at EDSBS. Go to Channel 6. Get your 2 things a week. And Spencer, let's do this again down the road, all right?
Yeah, anytime, man.
Did you think you were going to hear a Winston Churchill quote on today's podcast? Did you think you were going to get a comparison of PJ Fleck to Captain America running a regionally successful car wash? I don't know. Did you? If you did, good for you. If you didn't, I hope you rolled with it and really enjoyed that conversation with Spencer Hall as much as I did. He does a great job. Like I said, follow him at EDSBS on Twitter. Channel 6 is his new venture with Holly Anderson. Good stuff there as well. I encourage you to check that out. Let's finish with the cooler story that caught my eye in the Star Tribune. Kirk Cousins, the headline on Kirk Cousins being, can Kirk Cousins, here it is, can Kirk Cousins get better at improvising when things go awry? It's a good story. I just had to chuckle because, basically the whole thing is about how he hasn't been great throughout his career. When plays break down, can he get better in those situations? Vikings trying to help him get better in those situations. Kind of feels to me like the annual can Adrian Peterson catch more passes this year story that we had to do when Adrian Peterson was here and they were trying to get him more involved in the passing game, get the ball in his hand. The short answer is probably no, but we'll see if the Vikings can work some magic this year with Kirk Cousins. That'll do it for today. I think I'm going to have John Marthaler on Friday show to talk some Loons and other things. John, a good friend of mine. I've had him, we've gone on many baseball road trips together and things like that. He's been covering the Loons now for a bit, and I'm going to catch up with John on that show as well as many other topics on Friday. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be back at it tomorrow.